Hey everybody, T of T's Compendium with you, and I have another strange tale. Today it's the curious case of Mademoiselle Emilie Sagee. Now this is taken from a book that was written in 1860 by Robert Dale Evans. It's called Footfalls on the Boundary of Another World, and I will leave a link to that down below. Don't forget, really help me out if you hit a like, give me a comment, tell me what you think of the story, and maybe subscribe if you like this kind of content. So, the year is 1845, and it starts in Livonia, which is a country, and back then, and they had a boarding school that was mainly for the nobles' daughters to be taught. And Mademoiselle Emilie Sagee was a teacher there, just started. The name of the school was New Elk, and it had about 45 girls and staff present. A couple weeks in, um, they asked the girls, they said, "Hey, have you seen Mademoiselle Sagee?" And one girl goes, "Oh yes, I saw her over by the stairs." Another girl goes, "Oh, that can't be. I saw her over the other direction." They don't think anything of it. One of the girls made a mistake. No big deal. Or maybe there was a time lapse. Who knows? Well, they don't think too much about it. But then it keeps little things like that keep happening. Then she's teaching a class and has 12 students in there. One of them happens to be the girl who is the principal source for Robert Dale Evans' story on Miss Sagee. She was in the class at that time. And Mademoiselle Sagee is excitedly, earnestly writing a principle on the chalkboard with chalk. When all the girls notice something strange, there's a second Mademoiselle Sagee right next to her. Now, they're not, she's doing the exact same movements, mimicking her, copying her movements, but she doesn't have any chalk. So the girls are all questioning, cause this caused quite a stir in the school. And all the girls were questioned on it. And all the girls had the exact same story of seeing her in duplicate there. There was then another time at dinner where she was eating, and some of the students and staff were there, and everybody there saw, as she was sitting there eating, a second Mademoiselle Sagee right next to her, mimicking her moves, and she was eating and cutting the food, but she didn't have any silverware. Everybody there saw it. Now, it's interesting because it it would happen different ways. It always didn't just mimic her. Okay, there were times that they said that Mademoiselle Sagee would be seated and she'd stand up to go do something else, and the second Mademoiselle Sagee would still be sitting there. It also seemed that um, sometimes it would appear more solid than other times as well. She was set to do an event, and she had volunteered and was going to be an escort. So she's in her room getting dressed, and one of the girls came up to see her. And she's doing her buttons up the back with one of those button hooks they had. And the girl stops because there's a second Mademoiselle Sagee standing right next to her, doing her buttons up the back. It shook the girl so badly she fainted. So it, this keeps happening. Sometimes they would see a second Mademoiselle Sagee even when she was outside on a walk, but it was never very far away, and it usually happened indoors. One night she was sick, or she was in bed there with influenza, and a girl was sitting there. In fact, it was the same girl that fainted earlier, was sitting reading to her, and she noticed that Mademoiselle Sagee suddenly went very stiff and kind of rigid and didn't look right. And this time she had the she was ready for it, I think, because she didn't make a sound, but she looks over, and there is the second Mademoiselle Sagee pacing back and forth. As it disappeared, Mademoiselle Emilie Sagee, who is in the bed, then looks okay and is moving better. And she says, "Are you feeling better?" And she says, "No, not particularly." You know, the girl gets up. She's still shaken, and she goes downstairs, and they can immediately tell something's wrong. And so they ask her, and she relays the story of what just happened. So I think the most famous one that they talk about, though, or the one certainly where it was very interesting, was all the girls were doing embroidery, and there was a teacher there, and they were in the main room. There's four big glass doors, and they see that Emilie Sagee is in the garden, and she's cutting flowers, which they said she loved to do. And so the teacher then gets up and walks out of the room. And the girls are suddenly shocked because Mademoiselle Emilie Sagee is sitting in the chair. Nobody had seen her come in or anything like that. They immediately look out the doors, and Emily's still out in the garden. But they said her appearance is different. She's moving like almost like lethargically and didn't look quite right. By this time, it had happened so many times that a couple of the girls got up the courage and went and to see if they could touch her. And by their report, they said that there was like a slight resistance, almost like if you were to touch a cloth. One of the girls even walked where it would put her through it, and she walked right through her. After the doppelganger, or whatever it is, disappeared, they looked back out, and Mademoiselle Sagee is back to normal, moving just fine, doing everything wonderfully. So this has been going on, and everybody in the school had seen her. I mean, she it didn't matter. It wasn't just the girls, it was the staff. It didn't matter about whether you're a guy or a woman or child or adult. Everybody had seen it. So it wasn't part of the imagination. So as you can imagine, word started getting out and getting to the nobility, the parents of these girls. And the school did not want to let her go. They were like, "Hey, this isn't this girl's fault. No real harm's been done." You know, but as the girls would go back home on holiday, suddenly they wouldn't come back. So the school dropped from 45 down to 42, finally went all the way down to 12. The administrators knew. They said, we either have to close the school or we have to fire her. So they decided to fire her. Upon hearing about it, about hearing about her, she's being fired, she claimed out, she's like, "Oh, the 19th time. It is very, very hard to hear." And when they asked her what she meant by that, she confessed to them that she had been a teacher since she was 16 and 18 years prior. And she had been to 19 schools in those 18 years because of this. She was continually fired. And so she would move to an area where they wouldn't have heard about it and start teaching again until she got fired. And she said that she knew that within a very short time, even here at New Elk, that it would happen again. That now she herself had never seen this doppelganger, but she knew it was there by the looks on people's faces. So she went off to live with her sister-in-law. And the young lady who told this story to the writer even said she went to see Mademoiselle Emily, and that she had two nieces there. And even the nieces talked about their two Auntie Emilys. Little's known after that about her. Reportedly, she moved up into Russia, and that was the last that I saw of anything on her as far as information. She may have changed her name, who knows. But there you are presented with the curious case of Emilie Sagee. If you made it this far, make sure to give me a like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time. Have a blessed one, and peace out.